throughout this.
Yeah, I thought the movie was, while we were doing it, I felt that the movie was unapologetic in its entertainment, in the way in which Justin conceived it. And I think that being European, I have no sense of inferiority toward the concept of entertainment. I actually think it's the best thing you can do, to create some sort of emotions through your work.
Right.
And so when we were doing it, I felt the movie had this energy, this kinetic energy that was driven by these characters and their fucked up existences and their need to be together and the need to be mean to one another and then to make love to one another. And which happens to be something that you do in life. And I was more and more convinced that this was like bombastic energy movie. So I called Trent and Atticus and I said, hey guys, I think for this one we should go house music, like if we are in a rave party. And they went, okay. And then 2 months later, Amy and I, we were at their fantastic studio here in Hollywood and they said, play. And we were like, what the fuck?
Jaw-dropping. But it was all Luca's idea. They're like, really? You want rave music in this movie? And he's like, yeah. And then they were so, it was, like he does with everyone. He pushes everyone to do things that they can't possibly think they can do, and then they do.
Yeah. Amy, talk about how this came about. You got a hold of the script, or how did this start?
Yep, we read Justin's script, and I'll say what I loved about the script so much is that it's about 3 people who desperately don't want something to happen, and they spend all these years fearing that this will happen, and then it does, and they're okay. And I think that's a really wonderful, unusual thing to make a movie about, because it's such a human experience that we spend our whole lives being scared of something, and then the actual event comes about, and you learn you can survive it. And for all the various things that Challengers is about, that was one of the things that really touched me when I first read it. And then of course I called Luca and said, now what?
Justin, how did this idea come upon you? Do you play tennis? Are you part of that world?
No, not really. I played as a kid, and I was not very good.
Nobody played tennis who made this movie.
Yeah.
Not a single person.
Single person.
I didn't know anything about it, and I know nothing about it now.
I'll tell you the moment I knew that Luca was the perfect director for this is he had just read the script and we were talking on the phone, and Luca said, I know next to nothing about tennis, but I know a great deal about desire. And that was...
Applause for desire, Alex.
And that was very much true of me as well, until one day I was watching the US Open, and I just happened to turn it on because it was happening. And there was this match between Serena Williams and Naomi Osaka in the final. And there was this very controversial call where Serena Williams was accused of receiving coaching from the sidelines. And not being a massive tennis fan, I had never heard this rule, but immediately it struck me as this intensely cinematic situation. That you're all alone on the court, and there's this one other person in this massive stadium who cares as much about what happens to you as you do, but that's the person you can't talk to. And so I started to think, well, what if you really needed to talk about something? And what if it was something beyond tennis? What if it was about the two of you? And what if it somehow included the person on the other side of the net? How could you have that conversation? And how could you communicate the tension of that using the tools of film? And that was really the spark.
Well, it certainly works. Maybe it pays not to know the world you're writing in and find something much deeper, that people don't realize. Now, Josh, since we've established nobody on this panel except me plays tennis, I have to really congratulate you. How did you train for this? How did you do it? Because you are uber convincing in this role.
Well, I have Luca to thank for a lot of that, and so I'm doing. our cinematographer, but I think we worked really hard, is the truth. You know, we had a sort of boot camp of playing tennis with Brad Gilbert, our coach, who's a brilliant coach. And every day we'd go to this centre and we'd work out and we'd play tennis. To be fair, we should say that Mike Feist is a great
Oh, that's true. He can
He
play.
really can play. And
But you were really, they all
I would
learned
say
to play for them.
Mike is 95% on screen what he does with tennis. You're like 75, which is
Yeah.
good.
that's good, yeah, thanks. It's creeping up. But no.
And then it's 80.
Yeah. No, me and Z on the first day of coming to this coaching centre, I caught Zendaya's eyes looking at the racket like that. And she looked up and caught my eyes, and I was figuring out if I was left or right-handed. And trying to that feels good. And then Brad being, saying, that's not how you do it. But it was I think so much of the work in the boot camp was, yes, trying to understand playing tennis to the best of your ability. But truthfully, it was more, I've never worked out to that extent in my life. And all of the confidence that brought, and working to that level so much, that was all about, or for me it felt like Luca leading me to this place of Patrick Zweig being full of confidence and forthright and things that I kind of didn't necessarily pick up on early on. So they were the more important aspects of that.
Yeah, amazing. Luca, in terms of creating this world and the way you see it and all of that, how did you bring it all together from a point of view of what you really wanted to say here, and not just make it a tennis movie, because those can be really boring, shot back and forth. We saw that in the clip here, the way you inventively shot this and made it come alive. Zendaya, who's great in this movie, the movements there, boom, boom, boom. You made that all part of a rhythm.
I think that the great help beyond the beauty of Justin's script, which I would say is the trigger to conceive things, and the wonderful performances, it's the Gilded Age of Hollywood. I started to think of Lubitsch and Howard Hawks.
Yeah.
That's what I thought about. I thought about Preston Sturges. I thought about how this great canon of cinema, that is our golden age of cinema, designed for living, I started to think, how can you bring in the 21st century that point of view, that cinematic point of view, working on the concept of iconicity of character, on the visceral work of the movie to explain what happens between the characters. I learned that from these kind of Hollywood films, and I thought, why not try to think as if I was Mitchell Leisen or one of these guys?
Well, see, that's what we need more of. We need, more people looking at the great classics, because they don't get better than Billy Wilder or Lubitsch. They never have.
I agree with you. I think there is no future if you're not emotionally linked to the past, and the way in which the grammar has been built here has been definitive and groundbreaking since the beginning. And we have a lot to learn from Hollywood, and we continue to learn from Hollywood.
I have to say the scene on the bed with the three of you, and Mike Feist, obviously, and Zendaya, is hilarious. There's so much humor in this movie, and the way you three play it is brilliantly done. It's a seduction scene like I haven't seen since The Graduate with Mrs. Robinson, that, was just so sly. What was that like working with your two co-stars here? Because you obviously have great chemistry with them.
Yeah, we really hit it off, the three of us. But it was also that there's a really, we are actors at the end of the day, and we really like the gratifying feeling of hearing someone laugh. And I remember in that scene, actually, there was a look. At one point, I think Tashi says something about not having gone to a private school, who wasn't privately educated. And Luca just came over and said, Like that needs to be, you need to be baffled by that. Like, that's an extraordinary thing that she, in Patrick's Vice head, that she's chosen not to go to private school rather than that she couldn't necessarily afford to, or that wasn't an option for her. And I did it, and I remember Luca laughing behind the monitor. And that's so gratifying that I think constantly, and Justin's script has this, there are huge things at play, you know, huge emotions and huge questions of these characters. And I think in order for that to kind of run through, there is always humour, and particularly when they're younger, you know, and we're coming back later on in life, I think that humour runs throughout the film.
Well, it's great. Congratulations to all of you,
Thank you.
On this movie, which opened in the spring, but we're still talking about it, and that's a sign of a good movie. And let's all go play some